Hello, guys. Welcome, everyone. My name is Miss Asel. I'm your student counselor at Coventry University Kazakhstan. And today we'll talk about something almost all of you experience is exam anxiety and how to manage it, especially in this period of time when some of you are having their first university exams. And hopefully, I will be able to give you the tools to understand yourselves better and to support yourselves better. What are our goals for today's lecture? First of all, we're going to understand what exam anxiety actually is and why it happens, so the mechanisms behind it. We'll recognize our own physical, cognitive, and behavioral symptoms of anxiety. We'll learn practical techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness. We'll create a personalized exam preparation and coping plan for you. And I'm hoping that by the end of this lecture, you'll know where to seek help at campus. There is a lot of people that are available if you need support, if you want to discuss it in more depth. So we'll talk about that later. So what is exam anxiety? First of all, exam anxiety is a form of a situational anxiety that occurs before or during academic evaluations. It affects from 25 to 40% of students with higher intensity in the 18 to 25 age group. What does it mean? It means that if it affects a lot of people, so almost half of people will experience during their lifetimes at least once this exam anxiety, but especially in the young age. And situational anxiety, it means that the anxiety part is the same. So the feeling of anxiety is the same, but it is triggered by the specific situation, which is examination. So what are the key mechanisms behind it? Research shows that exam anxiety activates the sympathetic nervous system, triggering increased heart rate, muscle tension, reduced working memory capacity, and impaired information retrieval. We're going to review together what are those nervous systems in our body. Some of you already know it, but I want to remind you that we have two types of nervous systems in our body, and each of those is responsible for either activating the body or relaxing the body. And both of them are working together to maintain this balance or homeostasis in our body and help us to regulate depending on the situation. The sympathetic nervous system is when the body is put in the state of arousal of activation. When our pupil dilates, the heart rate increases. We start to breathe more. We start to sweat. There are hormones in our body that are released, and our digestive systems, the working of their digestive system decreases, and many others. So this is when our body responds to the danger signal from our brain. For example, from the ancient times, when people were walking through the forest and then encounter a bear, for example, our brain instantly put us in the mode of a fight or flight. So we are preparing our body to either just get away from the bear or just to fight the bear. So handling this danger, that's why our pupils are dilating. That's why we are preparing ourselves for the action. And the parasympathetic system is the one who is responsible for relaxing our body. When the danger is out of the way, our body needs to calm down and to come back to normal. So our pupils are restricting and our heartbeat slows, and then our airways constrict. So all of these nervous, how do you say, physical symptoms are indicating to us that we are relaxing. So the anxiety, it actually already is proven, activates the sympathetic nervous system. So the signal in our brain when we have anxiety is as if we were in danger. That's why we can sometimes experience these symptoms like, well, I don't know why I'm so nervous, but I feel like I am preparing for something. Like my heart is beating fast. I'm sweating because our brain treats the situation as dangerous. So uh, not only we have those physical symptoms, but we are also experiencing a reducing working memory capacity, and it is harder for us to retrieve the information from our brain. So the anxiety also affects our brain. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Oh, we'll talk about this now. So why stress increases before exams? So why we have why is there exam anxiety? Why do we experience it? There are a lot of theories that try to explain it, and they are all play a little bit the part of why we do feel the way we feel. And there is a cognitive load theory, which stipulates that when students feel overwhelmed, the cognitive load exceeds the working memory capacity and increases stress. So, what do we know about our brain? So, we have something called working memory. The working memory is a type of memory when we try to hold multiple information and work with it at the same time in our brains. And this is arguably the most important type of memory to function in the world. And especially when you are doing your exam, or you're writing on the paper, or you're presenting something, you are actually working with multiple types of information, and not only working, but there is also you're holding it together, and you manipulate the information in the brain. And for example, when I write the test, I need to go back and retrieve the information that I learned at home. I have to compare this information from information from the other subjects. I also need to write at the same time. I need to reflect on the questions. I need to be aware of the surroundings. So there's multiple types of information. And this cognitive capacity of our brain is actually very limited. So imagine you have a limited RAM in the brain, and if there is a lot of information, it gets overloaded. For example, according to the cognitive load theory, we have three types of cognitive load that loads our brain. So the intrinsic cognitive load is the natural difficulty of the material. For example, the complex formulas, the statistics. The extraneous cognitive load is the unnecessary difficulty caused by how information is presented. For example, if you have unclear slides or messy notes or confusing explanations, this increases extraneous cognitive load. And the germane cognitive load is the useful mental effort that we put into understanding something. So, for example, organizing ideas in our head, making mind maps, and all of those play. If all of those three types of cognitive loads are too high, working memory is overloaded, and then the student feels like my brain is full, and you may experience headaches, you may experience tension, you could be frustrated, you could be confused because there's too much. I can't hold everything, and yeah, and you can feel that you can't cope. So for example, before exam, how this happens during or before exams. If, for example, you cram a large amount of informations before the exam and a large amount of materials, this increases the intrinsic cognitive load. If you have poor notes or unclear instructions or last-minute changes, this is all increases extraneous cognitive load. And overall, just trying to understand everything together increases germane cognitive load. And when all of this exceeds your cognitive capacity, you could experience something like, I'm trying so hard, but nothing stays in my head. And this quickly transforms it into, oh, if nothing stays, then I'll fail. And that's where anxiety happens. So the anxiety is the emotion that is a reaction to the feeling to the feeling of being overloaded. So what we could do if we take this theory, we can fortunately we can also influence this type of loads to decrease our anxiety. For example, if we take intrinsic cognitive load, we could break the material into small chunks. So simplify, for example, simplify the difficulty of materials, and simplify the reduce the amount taken in the same time. So at once. So if you start to prepare, for example, with small chunks of material, and not to be overloaded with large amount like the day before exams, you will simplify your intrinsic cognitive load. If you will use simple and clean notes, this will reduce the extraneous cognitive load. And or if you start studying earlier and in short blocks, this will reduce both intrinsic and extraneous cognitive load. And if you will focus more on the core concept of the material and not trying to really like understand every little detail or learn by heart every little detail. So you focus really on the course concept. That will help you to understand easier the core, how do you say, understand the subject easier. So you will maximize your germane cognitive load. Yeah, so this means that anxiety is not your personal weakness. It's simply just a system overload sometimes. So we can easily work on that and help ourselves. So what is the second theory that affects why do we experience this exam anxiety? It is uncertainty and lack of control. So research on anxiety shows that humans are extremely sensitive to uncertainty. Our brain hates uncertainty. Our brain hates the unknown, and it is the same evolutionary mechanism that helped us to survive, because we are trying to prepare ourselves for the danger that are ahead of us. So our brain works as a predictor of anything bad that will happen to prepare us for any danger that can be ahead of us. So when there is an uncertainty, you don't know what will happen, how bad is something will be, and the brain treats this I don't know almost like something bad will definitely happen, and starts to prepare yourself for danger. And if you remember, our signal, that the signal of our brain, which tells us, there is a danger, activates our sympathetic nervous system. And there are physical symptoms of anxiety. So in exam situation, uncertainty can feel like uh, I will you don't know, will the exam will be hard or easy? Which questions will be asked exactly on the exam? Did I study the right topics, or how will this exam affect my future? So there is a lot of uncertainty, a lot of I don't know in the future, and of course, our brain doesn't like this ambiguity, and it responds with constant worry, scanning for threats, what if, and increased physical symptoms of anxiety. Uh, Lack of control is about feeling powerless. So students cannot change, unfortunately, the date, the time, the format of the exam. They cannot fully control their memory in the exam moment. They cannot fully control how others will evaluate their performance. So there is a lot of things that are imposed on the students, and they don't feel that they can control it. So when people feel that when they can't influence important outcomes for them, anxiety rises, and this is related of the concept of low perceived control. And the lack of control could show up in your brain as being as like, I don't know what's expected. What if the teacher changes everything? What if I blank out? There's nothing I could do. That's all. So all of this like catastrophic thoughts can, of course, trigger the emotion, anxiety, the reaction of in the body, because we treat the unknown like a threat. And it is actually normal. It's how our bodies and how our brains are constructed from the beginning of times to help us to survive. But when the anxiety starts to really affect your life, and that is where we have to come in and see how we can manage it better and understand the concepts to control it more, and to work on it more, to help ourselves to say to ourselves, it's okay, it's okay. Of course, I don't know everything. Yeah, I can't control everything, but we can work on the perceived control. So focus on the controllable actions. Focus more on things that you can control. For example, practice questions with teachers, creating study plans, sleeping better, eating better. You can clarify what is already known. The exam format, the topics, the date, the allowed materials, and yeah, of course, you can't control everything as in other parts of life, but there are things that I can control. I can control how I am prepared for this exam and how do I respond to this exam. So this will increase your perceived control and will reduce the anxiety intensity. So the other theory is the one of fear of negative evaluation. It is the fear of being judged badly by teachers, by parents, or even by yourself. And for students, this is not only just about checking what do we know, checking our knowledge. Exam often feels and experienced as something like a test of my intelligence, a test of my worth, a test of whether I disappoint my parents, teachers, or myself. And so in that case, the exam becomes a social evaluative threat. And research shows that when we see something that as a social evaluative threat, it automatically activates our amygdala and stress hormones. And the amygdala is fear center in our brain. And the stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released in our body. This is because this is the system that activates if someone is being rejected by the group, which evolutionary means danger. Like when even like from the beginning of times, the humans are the social creatures and they survive by being in the group, and being rejected by the group, to being alone means not surviving, like less chances of surviving. So it means to our brain, it means danger. Uh, and for the students, sometimes exams, it feels not just like a test or but like a kind of social survival test. Because what if I fail? What if I lose respect? What if I lose love or opportunities? So, or what if I fail and I will disappoint my parents? What if I fail and the teacher will think I'm stupid? Or everyone will see that I'm not as smart as they think, or I will lose my scholarship or opportunities, future opportunities. So there is a high risk, social risk. Uh, so it's not that you are just afraid of failing. This is not the reason why you feel the anxiety. It's not because you're just afraid to fail the test, but it's about what failing means about you and about your about how others will see you and about the future. So uh, the anxiety in that case is strong, is very strong, and it's normal. But we can help ourselves with introducing the CBT reframing. We'll talk about this later in more detail, but if we understand that this is how our brain and how our body responds to the test, we can also reframe the thought. So instead of thinking that um, exam is a test of my worth, we can try and think that yes, one exam is just a feedback on performance and not a final judgment of your worth. Or that tell ourselves that people that care about you uh, are here for you, not just for your grades. And then that academic and identity is, of course, important, but it's not your whole identity. Uh, and you should also be aware that all high achieving students worry about disappointing others, all high achieving people. So it is pretty normal, but we can work with these thoughts. So the other reason is the high stakes culture, which is a very, um, especially in these times, in this day and age, we do have in Kazakhstan the high stakes culture directed at the young people. There is a lot of competition. There is a lot of stakes. There's a lot of risks. There is a lot of pressure from everywhere, not only just from parents and teachers, but from the society, because the the grades and exam results will have influence, of course, on the scholarships, on university places, on the social prestige, on the stipends, and there is a strong social pressure to succeed academically, and mistakes are seen as like failures rather than learning opportunities in our culture. And in those kind of systems like ours, the student will feel like, oh, if I fail, my life is over or my future is over. There is no space to make mistakes, that only top results are acceptable. And this, of course, intensifies exam anxiety because the culture tells you that you must be the best, that others always are working harder with you, and if you don't keep up, you will fall behind. That your future depends on this, depends on the how you pass the test, and of course, in this type of culture, that exam becomes like a life or death situation psychologically, not just a threat. So, oh, not just the test, I'm sorry. So this, of course, leads not only to just exam anxiety in the situation, in its situational form, but the chronic stress across the academic year, the persistent fear of not being enough, to the burnout and the sleep problems, and to over-identification with academic results, thinking, oh, I am on my grades. And this high-stake culture, it works like an amplifier of all of the reasons that we've discussed before. It amplifies the cognitive load theory, it amplifies the uncertainty, amplifies fear of negative evaluation. So it works like so it makes all of the reasons, it makes them seem a lot bigger and more significant. And in this type of culture, this test becomes like a symbolic test of identity or of future. But we have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge that this is the social pressure. Yes, it is affecting us, but we have to create a more healthier internal narrative. And I understand, of course, I understand that some of you grew up in the environment where exams are treated as they define your whole future, and it's understandable that it creates very strong anxiety. But exams are, yes, of course, they are important, but they're not the only path in life. And your worth as a person is not equal to your grades. And long-term success depends not only just on test results, but on skills, on persistence, on the flexibility, on the relationships, on the mental health and physical health. So many factors are inside of being successful now, not just only exams and grades. I want you just to pause, and then when you're having this kind of thoughts, please just pay attention. Whose voice do you hear? Is it the voice of the peers? Is it the voice of the parents, of the teachers, and or just societies? And how you can and start thinking how you can develop your own voice that is motivating and supporting, and that is the voice that you will have to learn to listen to if you want to live a fulfilling and successful life. So we'll talk also about the anxiety cycle. This is something that a lot of research put into the psychological model, to explain how the anxiety works. It is called cognitive behavioral cycle. So it starts with the trigger. The trigger being exams or approaching exams, in case of the exam anxiety. Then it influences our thoughts about the triggers, and the thoughts if you're experiencing exam anxiety, will sometimes be catastrophic predictions. For example, I will fail and ruin everything. And if you're having these thoughts, your brain, of course, treats it like a danger because of what this exam means to you. And the brain will send the signal to the amygdala, and the amygdala responses. Amygdala is this fear center in our brain. Amygdala activates the sympathetic nervous systems. It releases the stress hormones. We are having symptoms of sweating, fast breathing, nausea, racing heartbeat. The body prepares for the danger. And then we'll have increased scanning for danger. So when we're in the state where our brain tells us that this is a danger, our body starts to prepare us for the danger. The brain also will scan the possible threats, so we'll be more focused on this danger. So our attention will only bring us to the threats. So what is our response? So the consequences of that. I'm sorry. So our brain and our body is prepared, and what do we respond with? So what is our behavior? It is mostly avoidance behavior. So if we are in the fight or flight mode, of course it is easier and it is more effective to flight, so to avoid the danger. And then we start to avoid studying, to procrastinate, to overcheck material, to it leads to the perfectionism, to overstudying, for example. So this is alcohol use. It's for others, other types of anxiety. But sometimes, yes, of course, sometimes there is an alcohol use, sometimes there is a substance use. It is also the form of avoidance. And the consequences of this behavior is so we avoid something though, and we avoid this danger, and it brings us a short-term relief. So the avoidance temporarily reduces anxiety, which leads us to the negative reinforcement because it brings us relief. But long term, it increases avoidance and fear, making next exams worse. So avoidance, this type of behavior, maintains and intensifies anxiety disorders. And then when we avoid the threats successfully, we feel this relief. We are happy, our body is happy, our brain is happy. But then long term, when we're in the next type of situation, the trigger affects us even more, and then this cycle starts to continue and intensify with each time. The main thing that the avoidance maintains and intensifies anxiety symptoms, anxiety disorders. This is, for example, in the exams, if I feel that, oh my God, I'm so scared of this exam, I don't think I'm capable of doing this. I think I don't think that I don't know what if I fail? What will it mean for my future? What if I lose my scholarship? What if I disappoint my parents? And yeah, I'm very scared of it. This is a threat for my future and for my identity. And the scary thing that I don't know what will happen. I do not have control over it. And I will start to have these symptoms that are telling me that this is dangerous. I don't want to do this, and I will start to avoid as much as possible this situation with procrastinating, because even thinking about even putting myself to work feels very heavy, feels like I'm starting to experience this fear over and over again. So I will try to avoid and avoid and avoid, and then yes, when I will actually avoid it, this will bring me release, because I feel too anxious, I feel too nervous, I feel too scared to start studying for this right now. So I will I think just I will scroll like for a couple hours on TikTok, and I will see my friends. And yes, during this I may have the feeling of guilt, but the main behavior to avoid this studying, for example, is because I fear, I'm afraid, and I will avoid this. And yes, I will feel better a little bit, but this behavior will intensify the next cycle. The good thing about this that we can influence each one of these stages. Well, um, except amygdala response, but we can influence our thoughts, we can influence our emotions, we can influence our behavior, we can sometimes influence specific types of our situations. And when we will introduce changes to little changes to each of those factors, or even one of those factors, it will help us to reduce our anxiety. The other theory that we'll talk about is Yerkes and Dodson law. This is, I just wanted to demonstrate to you that, for example, the main thing is that we, the feeling of stress and the feeling of anxiety is not the most pleasant feelings or emotions that we can experience, but they sometimes they are here, that there is a function for every emotion. For example, in psychology, we do not have negative and positive emotions. We think that emotions, all of the emotions, are here because there is a reason for it. They all have function. They help us to survive, to help us to balance, and we don't want to treat it something as abnormal, because every emotion is normal. If you the I don't know if you saw uh the movie about the I don't know how the Inside Out, yeah, the Inside Out with the girls, and then they showcase the basic emotions in their heads, and by the end of this movie it shows us that it's not only joy that we have to strive to, and we have to experience all the time. The joyous, all the people that are joyous all the time are actually a very outside of the norm. The norm is to have all kinds of emotion, but just know how to balance them and know how to regulate them in a healthy way. So the stress and the anxiety is the reaction, the emotion that is there for something. And the Yerkes and Dodson law stipulates that the stress is when it puts our body in the state of arousal and activation, it's actually affecting our performance in a good way. It could affect our performance in a good, in an effective way, but only when it's maintained at an optimal level. So because if you actually think about it, if something if you, like, I don't know, for example, if you're not very interested in the subject, and if you're not really motivated by it, and you just don't feel that this is something that you like to do, or that is or if you're not really putting significance into something that you're studying, of course you will feel mostly bored, you will feel demotivated, and it will affect your performance. It will not do good in the subject. And and when something means something to us, so and the outcome of the outcome also means something to us, we want to do good. We want to do the best of our abilities, and that is where the stress comes in and the anxiety comes in, because it is important to us. But that is something that will motivate us and push ourselves to do to perform better. So this is where the peak performance actually is to when we have a moderate stress. But if we have too much stress and too much anxiety, it will affect our performance in the bad way. So the curves will go down. So the too much stress, too much anxiety affects badly our performance. So the main thing is to keep balance. because too much cortisol impairs our memory consolidation and retrieval, and we have it's affecting our systems in a bad way, that we almost have a shutdown of our overactivation, and that leads us to burnout, to breakout, to panic mode, and that is the state where we cannot really perform uh, in the good way. So this is just something that I wanted to show you, to say that the stress and the anxieties is something that is there for us, so it have to serve us. And we are the ones who can choose to use it as a fuel, as something that will push us forward, as something that will motivate us to do our best, to perform our best. But the day, like the not the danger, but the thing that we have to be aware of is that this stress and anxiety, we cannot overplay with, because if we have too much stress and too much anxiety, the performance will go back to zero. So yeah. What are the common triggers for the exam anxiety? We saw in the exam cycle that it all starts with triggers. There are a lot of types of triggers: academic, psychological, social and cultural, and health and lifestyle triggers. For the academic triggers, it's the poor study habits, too much material, lack of planning, and clear expectations. We all remember that those type of things affect our cognitive load, affect our uncertainty, affects our lack of control, affects um, uh, affects the not the high stake, I'm sorry, effects of fear of negative evaluation. So all this type of triggers relates to things that we've already discussed about. So the psychological triggers are the ones are about perfectionism, fear of failure, low self-efficacy. There are social and cultural triggers, family expectations, comparing with peers, pressure from teachers, cultural emphasis on academic success. This is a high-stakes culture that we've talked about. Health and lifestyle triggers also are there. The lack of sleep, the high caffeine consumption, the poor time management, studying at night, high screen exposure, which was shown to increase cognitive fatigue. So those are all the triggers. For some of you, it's all individual. So for some of you, there's more of physical health triggers. For some of you, it's more psychological. For some of you, it's more academic. For some of you, it's more cultural, or the combination of the two, or the three, of the four. So it's very useful to be aware of what triggers you, and then it's more clear for you on which parts of these triggers you can work on. So the question for you is to answer. Of course, we're not in class. I cannot really hear your answers, but it's just to really think about which part of anxiety cycle affects you the most: thoughts, body reactions, or behaviors. So in this cycle, we'll have to think which part of those will affect you the most. Is it the thoughts? Is it the body reaction that you experience during evaluations, or when you're about to study? Is it the behavior, that the avoidant behavior affects you the most? So I would just like you to take a minute and to analyze it. So now, finally, we'll take a couple of minutes to learn how to manage exam anxiety. And for this, we'll use the cognitive behavioral techniques. The CBT techniques was shown to be one of the most effective research-supported intervention for specifically academic and test anxiety. And hopefully it will help you to change thoughts, emotions, and behavior that will fuel anxiety. So the CBT actually is a psychological approach that breaks down all of the psychological problems into four parts. It's the thoughts, the emotion, the physical reaction, and the five parts, behavior and the situation. So these five parts are thought to be interconnected. So they all influence each other. And the objective is, the approach is that if these five factors affect how we feel, how we experience some psychological challenges, why do we suffer sometimes psychologically, it means that if we introduce something, if we influence each one of those factors, even a little bit, if we introduce change or even in one of these factors, because they're all interconnected, it will all positively influence the other factors. And that is the main, the core concept of the CBT. So how it works in the exam anxiety. The first techniques that we will talk about is the thought restructuring. So we'll work on thoughts. The purpose is to identify and replace unhelpful thoughts that identify anxiety. And it is known that the catastrophic thinking predicts higher exam anxiety and lower exam performance. There was a study that was done that just the thoughts that we're thinking predicts how the level of our anxiety and our performance on the exam. So we'll try to work on the thoughts. So why it works? For example, when a student has negative thoughts, I will fail. The brain, we already talked about it, interprets it as a real threat. And this activates the amygdala, increasing cortisol, psychological arousal, which reduces working memory. And this is exactly what you need in the exam. And if we challenge the thoughts, if we in this chain, we just starts with the thoughts and we challenge the thoughts, the student will activate actually the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, and it will reduce the fear response. So what does it mean? It means that the thoughts that we are having are, of course, also automatic. It's not, it's something that appears in the brain. We sometimes feel that we can't control our thoughts. It is already, because why it is automatic? Because there is already like a nerve, the connection, the neuron connection, the neuron path that was developed maybe from the childhood, maybe from the school, and it was used so many times that it almost switches on instantly and it becomes automatic. But it doesn't mean that we cannot do anything about this. And when it's automatic, we do not really we are not really conscious about these thoughts. But why the thought restructuring, reframing works? Because when we start to be conscious of these automatic thoughts, when we catch ourselves thinking these thoughts, then we can try and put the mental effort and try to restructure it. And that will activate our prefrontal cortex, which is something that is responsible for the higher thinking, for the planning. This is something that makes us human. And the prefrontal cortex will reduce the amygdala response, which is the ancient part of our brain and very automatic. And that is where the mechanism is why it works. Why actually? Why just be conscious of our automatic thoughts and try to restructure it, reframe it, why it decreases anxiety. So there are so there are like cognitive distortions in our brains, in the brain of the student, for example, and the brain uses predictable thinking errors, such as catastrophizing. So what are the cognitive distortions in the brain that we're not really aware of all the time? The catastrophizing means, if I fail this exam, my future is ruined. Or black and white thinking. If it's not perfect, it's a disaster. Overgeneralization. I struggled once, so I always will. Mind reading. My teacher thinks I'm stupid. I'm 100% sure my teachers think I'm stupid. Fortune telling. I know I'll panic during the exam. I know it. I know I will not be able to handle it. Personalizations. Other students are calm, only I can handle it. And those kind of distortions amplify anxiety and have to be corrected because there is no evidence for these thoughts. So this is the cognitive distortion. We do not see the evidence for this, but our brain treats it as something like, 100% sure. So what I want you to do, there is so how does it work, the CBT technique? We first will have to write or identify the distressing thoughts, the unhelpful thoughts. For each of one, maybe it's different, but for example, you just have to think what thought makes you anxious. And then you'll just write down. You will write down here in this column what thought makes you anxious. And then we'll evaluate evidence against this thought realistically. Is this thought 100% true? What facts contradict it? We'll write it down there. And then in this third column, we'll create a balanced thought. A balanced thought. Something realistic and calming. Not fake positive, but realistic. Yes, I'm having this distressing thought, but there is an evidence against it. And it's okay. Yes, I am having this distressing thought, but there is an evidence against it. This is something that I call balanced thought. I will show you some examples. For example, the distressing thought. I will completely fail the exam. I just know it. I will fail this exam, and this is something that fuels our anxiety. This is something that makes us anxious. We'll write it down. What evidence do we have against it? For example, you are in the university. This is your first, for example, this is your first university exams, but you already had exams in your life in school, and you passed it successfully because you are here in the university. So you have passed previous exams. There is already evidence that you can do it. You've studied. You put time, you put effort. You understand most topics. And your panic does not reflect your ability. So you write it down. So this is the evidence that you have against this catastrophic thought. I will completely fail the exam. And the balanced thought, it's combining the two. Yeah, I may feel anxious, but I am prepared enough to pass. And this balanced thought is where this sweet restructuring, sweet conscious cognitive effort that will activate our prefrontal cortex in our brain happens. And this thinking this balance on, even just writing, it's not really, there's no magic trick. It's just simple exercise. Even one time, if you do this, even one time, you do not have to repeat it through the day multiple times. You just have to put a bit of cognitive effort into restructuring your thoughts. Be conscious about the thought, searching through the evidence against the thought, realistic, and then having the balanced thought. This process is already a great, this has such a great value in decreasing the anxiety. Or if I don't get a 90%, I'm worthless. This is black and white thoughts. If it's not perfect, it's just no use. So what is the evidence against? The evidence is like, one, that grade doesn't define intelligence. There are a lot of people that had bad grades. Even Einstein had a D, I think, on mathematics. My performance is usually stable. It's not, yes, if you analyze your performance, it's not like you only have it's something that it's something unpredictable. It's something unorganized. Yes, you all have your average level. Sometimes for some of you it's higher, for some of you it's lower. It's okay, but my performance is usually stable. Many successful people did not get perfect grades. It's true. Effort matters more than long-term success. And more for long-term success. The effort is a factor that affects the success more than just one grade. And then you restructure it in the balanced thought, which is, my value is not defined by one exam. I can aim high. Yes, I acknowledge that I want to have a good grade, but without destroying myself. Or distressing thought. I always panic during exams, always panic. The fortune telling. What evidence we have against it? I have survived all exams so far. Yes, it's not like you never passed any exam. Panic does not last forever. We do not have panicked people in the state of panic all the time, all of the life. Panic is temporary. Or the evidence, when I breathe slowly, when I have panic, when I breathe slowly, it actually, it helps, it reduces panic. And what I can do, I can use grounding techniques. And the balanced thought will be, even if anxiety appears, I can manage it using techniques I know. Yes, you acknowledge that it may appear. It's something realistic. It's not, oh no, I will never panic during exam. Yes, it may appear, but I think I know some techniques that helped me in the past, and I will be able to manage it. So this is how the thought restructuring happens. I hope you all understood. The second technique is behavioral activation and exposure. The purpose of it is to reduce avoidance, procrastinations, and fear through action. Because it is already proven, and we've discussed that avoidance behavior reinforces anxiety, and exposure reduces it. So it's like with when you're working with fears, you have to face the fear to not be afraid of it anymore. But it's not something that you have to do suddenly and at once. You don't have to just go for it and be brave. We can all adjust it to the minimal level of stress, because too much stress also affects our anxiety, and then working with it step by step, little by little. So why it works? Avoidance temporarily reduces anxiety. It brings us relief, which rewards avoidance in our brain, and making fear stronger next time. We have to understand that sometimes our brain controls us, because our brain, yeah, it's a very stubborn thing, because it was developed through tens of thousands of years and helped us to survive. And sometimes it can control us. So sometimes we have to really activate the things that makes us human, the prefrontal cortex, to be conscious of it, to understand it, and to try to manage it. So when we avoid something, yeah, it rewards our brain. Yes, we successfully avoided something stressful. Yes, I'm proud of you. Let's avoid it next time, because next time, I think, with each time I'm avoided, I have a less and less confidence that I can deal with it, and then making fear stronger next time. This is called negative reinforcement. Exposure, to be exposed to something, to your fear, to something that makes you anxious, that makes you feel afraid, gently retrains the brain to see studying or exam environment as safe, reducing fear over time. So I hope the mechanism is clear. What are the practical steps for you that you can already undertake for your exam, for your next exam? To expose yourself to this environment little by little. For example, break tasks into micro steps, but really micro steps. For example, just open the laptop, read one paragraph, and just close the laptop, and that's it. Watch 5 minutes of a lecture. Solve one practice questions. So we'll have to break the because when the task feels large and almost unattainable, it makes us so overwhelmed with fear that we do not know where to start, how to start it, and we just tend to avoid it. And this technique is help us to break the task. It's so little steps that will gently expose ourselves and more, and then it becomes easier, and then the fear is reduced, and then this anxiety is reduced, and we feel more comfortable, and then we don't even know it how we already learned the subject. So micro tasks, use graded exposure. So you do not have to just sit and learn everything by heart at one sitting. We have to increase exposure gradually by the levels. For example, first time you just review notes for 5 minutes, and then second time you solve two test questions, and third time stimulate a 50 minutes exam, and then full practice exam. So it's like in sports. I don't know if some of you do sports. You do not start to you do not come to the gym and start to running a 2 hours marathon, or you start to lift I don't know 100 kilograms of iron. So you always have to expose yourself gradually, but gently increasing difficulty with each time to attain your objective. So if you're interested, you can, for example, use this worksheet for the behavioral activation exposure, and write down and think of the subject that is causing you most anxiety, and write down 3 small steps that you can take today, not tomorrow, not next week. We don't need to we can't I'm sorry, my English is over. We cannot let ourselves to avoid it. So we have to start now, today. But what are the real small steps that you can take? Really small steps. Even if it's just reading one paragraph, and that's it. That's it for today. Really. But it's better than just avoiding and doing nothing for the week. Yes, I will. It may seem insignificant, but it actually trains our brain without even knowing it to expose yourself to the exam, and then it will reduce your anxiety. So the last technique is the grounding and physiological relaxation. So we'll for the first thought restriction, we're working on the thoughts. For the second behavioral exposure, we're working on the behavior, avoidance behavior. And these techniques, we're working with physiological regulation, with physical symptoms. We already discussed what are the physical symptoms of anxiety. And with this technique, will help us to reduce panic and restore cognitive control. With the grounding techniques, reduces dissociation and panic intensity, and breathing reduces amygdala activation. It is evidence-based technique. So why it works? Anxiety activates the flight or fight system. We already talked about it. The grounding technique activates the parasympathetic nervous system. You remember? The one that calms us down, that helps us to go back to normal, to maintain this homeostasis. We cannot be activated all of the time. There is a parasympathetic nervous system that is responsible to calming down the body. Memory and rational thinking improve after grounding techniques because oxygen increases to the prefrontal cortex. Amazing. So why breathing works? Because, for example, we already reviewed is here. Yeah. When we're nervous, when we're stressed, our airways dilate and we have to breathe more. And it feels like uh, we do not have enough air. And then when we breathe, what do we breathe? Of course, we breathe oxygen, and the oxygen activates our prefrontal cortex. That makes us more conscious and makes us to reduce our anxiety. So what is this grounding technique? It's a very simple technique that I myself use sometimes also when I do feel in some state of panic sometimes, and I already used it multiple times, but you have to practice it before the moment that you will really need it. Because if you feel very stressed and you will try and do this for the first time when you already overloaded and stressed and nervous, it may feel like something new, something frustrating, and your body is not really used to the feeling that we try to replicate. So I am recommending to you to use this technique at least once a day or twice a day to prepare yourself. You prepare your body to use it when you actually will need it. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, what is this? It's the grounding. So we have to, when we're anxious and we're nervous, we're afraid, if you noticed you have a lot of thoughts, so you are not, you're in your thoughts. You're constantly scanning for threats. You're constantly trying to predict the future, analyze the future, and prepare ourselves to the negative outcomes that you have imagined. So you're constantly in your thoughts. You're not really present in the moment, in the body, to notice that there is no realistic and actual danger for your life present at the moment. So this technique helps us to return us to our body, to ground ourselves, and to be in the moment and to calm the thoughts down. So, 5, you have to just notice 5 things that you can see. For example, me, what I see my table, I see my mouth, I see my keyboard, I see my coffee, I see my AirPods. Then we'll have to list 4 things you can touch. What can you touch? I am touching my table. I am touching the chair I'm sitting on. I can touch my hair, and I can touch my hand. Next one, 3 things you can hear. I can hear my colleagues talking in the next room. I can hear the sound of the computer working. I can hear the sound of the vacuum cleaner out in the corridor. 2 things I can smell. I can smell the wood from the table, and I can smell my coffee. And one thing that you can taste. I'm not eating anything, but I think I can taste almost like metallic taste of my saliva. Yeah. So I did the technique. It helped me to come back to the room, to the moment, to this moment. And you will start to notice that it calms you down and it gets you back from this catastrophizing thoughts to your body, to this present moment. And the mindfulness technique, the breathing technique, is the box breathing. It's a very simple technique too. You have to imagine, for example, a box that have 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what will we do? We'll breathe on the count of 4. We'll inhale on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll hold our breath on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll exhale on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll hold our breath again on the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll repeat. This will slow our heart rate. This will slow our breathing. This will reduce panic, anxiety, nervous system. And you also will be in the moment, imagining the box. So for the demonstration, I will breathe. I'm sorry. I think I breathed I breathe too much. But this is the very known technique, and you can use it anytime, even when you're around people. You just imagine the box, and on the count of 4, you breathe, and then you start to notice how you start to be fulfilled with oxygen, how you'll become more calmer. And yeah, I'm encouraging you to practice it before you will need it, and during the panic, during the exam. And yeah. So this is the end of our lecture. I hope you learned something useful. I hope you understood yourselves better, and understood why we feel anxious during exams. And just I hope you don't feel that this is something bad or something that you should not feel. It is very much normal. Even professors, even high-end professors, even Nobel laureates, when they're doing the public speaking, they also feel nervous, we also feel anxious. This is something very normal, because it it is normal, because it means something to you, because it's important to you, and it is and I think it's understandable, completely understand, because you want to succeed, you want to be happy, you want to be successful in your life, and you have a right to do that, and you're allowed to do that. But we have to also be attentive and cautious of letting it to control our life. So I hope I've given you the tools to try and work on it and see where it brings you. And if you still have questions or still have challenges, you are always welcome to come into my office. I'm sitting on the second floor in the room 208. My door is always open for you, and I will be happy to see you and discuss something that maybe bothers you, or maybe you want to share your successes, maybe you want to share your progress. I will be happy to do that too. There is also Miss Manju Edmonton. I think almost everyone already know her. It's our head of student services. She's the head of academic support too, and she has a great experience working with students, and especially during exam periods. So you can always come up to her and ask her for advice. So you have to know that our lecturer are here for you. If you have any questions related to your academic material, or you just want to be supported and want to have maybe tips, or just share something with us, we're always you're always welcome. We'll always be happy to see you. So hopefully the lecture will be of use for some of you. And so I'm wishing you a successful passing of the exams. But however the outcome is, remember, it does not define your worth. It does not define your value, and the effort is more important for the long time success, and not just the grade. Happy exams, happy holidays, and hopefully see you very soon. Bye bye.